The Grand Meridian Ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and white roses. My sister Victoria's wedding was everything she dreamed of. 300 guests, a live orchestra and enough champagne to float a yacht. I sat at table 17, the one tucked behind a pillar where they'd seated the disappointing relatives nobody wanted in the photos. Why, there you are. Victoria's voice cut through the dinner conversation as she approached my table, her $15,000 Vera Wang gown trailing behind her. Her new husband Brad followed, looking uncomfortable in his tailored tuxedo. I was just telling Brad's family about you. I set down my fork, the salmon on my plate suddenly less appealing. That's nice. Yes, well, someone has to explain why you're dressed like that. Victoria gestured at my simple black dress, elegant but understated, bought online for $200. Nothing compared to the designer gowns the other guests wore. Brad shifted awkwardly. Victoria, maybe. No, Brad, it's fine. Maya understands. Victoria smiled, but her eyes were cold. We can't all be successful. Some of us are late bloomers. Very, very late bloomers. Our mother materialized beside Victoria, resplendent in champagne silk. Margaret Chin had dressed for her daughter's wedding like she was attending the Met Gala. Maya, darling, you're not boring people with stories about your warehouse work, are you? I haven't mentioned it, Mom. Good, good. Mom patted my shoulder with the same enthusiasm someone might show a disappointing houseplant. No need to advertise. Brad's family are investment bankers. Very successful people. They wouldn't understand your situation. An older woman at my table, one of Brad's aunts, leaned forward with interest. Warehouse work. How industrious. What kind of warehouse? Victoria laughed, the sound sharp and bright. Oh, it's nothing interesting. Maya dropped out of Stanford after 2 years to work in some logistics facility. We're still trying to understand why. I didn't drop out, I said quietly. I took a leave of absence. 5 years ago. Mom's voice dripped with disappointment. 5 years and you're still loading boxes onto trucks. Your father and I paid for 2 years at Stanford, Maya. Do you know how much that cost? I do. I've paid you back. Victoria snorted. With what money? You live in that tiny apartment in Oakland and drive a 10-year-old Honda. Don't tell me you're swimming in cash. Brad's aunt looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. The other guests at table 17 had gone quiet, their attention fixed on the family drama unfolding before them. It's honest work, I said, keeping my voice level. Honest. Victoria's laugh was louder now, drawing attention from nearby tables. Maya, please. You could have been a doctor. A lawyer. Something respectable. Instead, you're 27 years old and working in a warehouse. Do you know what people say when they ask about you? I didn't answer. I'd heard it all before, at family dinners, holidays, casual phone calls. Maya the dropout. Maya the disappointment. Maya the one who threw away her future. They pity us, Mom said, her voice dropping to a stage whisper that somehow carried across half the ballroom. They actually pity us. Where did you go wrong? They ask. What happened to Maya? I'm doing fine, I said. Fine. Victoria gestured around the ballroom. Look at this, Maya. This is what success looks like. Brad and I have a house in Pacific Heights. He's a senior associate at Goldman Sachs. I run my own interior design firm. We vacation in the Maldives. We're building something. That's great, Victoria. I'm happy for you. Are you? Her eyes narrowed. Because you don't look happy. You look exactly like what you are, a warehouse worker who couldn't cut it in the real world. Brad touched Victoria's arm. Honey, maybe we should. Should what? Pretend Maya's life choices are fine. Victoria shook her head. No. I've spent 5 years making excuses for her. She's finding herself, I'd say. She just needs time. All time's up. This is who she is. A photographer approached, camera raised. Miss Chin, could we get some family photos? Of course. Victoria's demeanor transformed instantly, her smile radiant. Mom, come on. And I suppose Maya should be in a few shots. Try to stand in the back, would you? And maybe smile like you're happy to be here. The next 20 minutes were a special kind of torture. Photo after photo with Victoria and Mom positioning me at the edges, half hidden behind cousins and aunts. The photographer tried to be professional, but even he seemed to sense the family dynamics at play. "Beautiful family," he said after the final shot. "You must be so proud of both your daughters, Mrs. Chen." Mom's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Oh yes, so proud. Though they've taken very different paths." "Mom's being generous," Victoria interjected, still beaming at the camera. "Maya works in a warehouse. Loading and unloading. Very physical work. We keep telling her to go back to school, but..." She shrugged helplessly. The photographer glanced at me with barely concealed pity before moving on to the next family group. Back at table 17, I found my seat taken by an elderly relative I barely recognized. I ended up standing near the bar, nursing a glass of water while the reception continued around me. Guests danced, laughed, celebrated. I checked my phone. 7:47 p.m. The Forbes announcement was scheduled for 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. 13 minutes. Maya Chen. I turned to find a young man in an expensive suit approaching. He looked vaguely familiar. Maybe one of Brad's colleagues? Yes. Tyler Morrison. I work with Brad at Goldman. He extended his hand and I shook it. "I have to say I'm a huge fan of your work." My stomach tightened. "Pie work. The logistics optimization algorithms you developed. Revolutionary stuff. We've been trying to implement similar systems in our supply chain analysis." Tyler's enthusiasm was genuine. When Brad mentioned his new sister-in-law was Maya Chen, I couldn't believe it. "You're kind of a legend in certain circles." Thank you. Are you still with Logistech? Or have you moved on to something new?" Before I could answer, Victoria appeared at my elbow. "Tyler. There you are. I see you've met my sister." Her emphasis on the last word made it sound like an affliction. "I have," Tyler said, oblivious to the tension. "I was just telling her how impressive her work is." Victoria's smile froze. "Her work. The supply chain optimization systems she designed. They're being studied at business schools now. Absolute game changer for the logistics industry." "Right. Her warehouse work." Victoria's voice had gone flat. Tyler laughed. "Well, I suppose technically she started in a warehouse. That's what makes it so brilliant. She understood the ground-level operations and built the algorithms from there. Pure genius." An announcement crackled over the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, dinner will be served in 5 minutes. Please find your seats." Victoria grabbed my arm as Tyler walked away. "What was that about?" "Nothing. Don't lie to me, Maya. What did you do?" "I developed some software. It's not a big deal." "Software?" Victoria's eyes narrowed. "What kind of software?" "Logistics optimization. It helps warehouses run more efficiently. And people are studying it? At business schools." I shrugged. "I guess it works pretty well." Victoria's grip tightened. "Why didn't you tell us?" "You never asked. You assumed I was just loading boxes." "Because that's what you said. You said you worked at a warehouse." I did. I started there to understand the systems before building something better." "This is unbelievable." Victoria released my arm. "You let us think you were a failure." "You decided I was a failure," I said quietly. "I just didn't correct you." Victoria opened her mouth to respond, but Mom appeared with a cluster of relatives in tow. "Maya, come, we're taking more photos. Try to look presentable this time. And fix your hair, it's going flat." I followed them back to the photo area where the photographer was setting up another shot. My phone buzzed in my clutch. 7:58 p.m. 2 minutes. "Everyone smile," the photographer called. "Beautiful. Now one with just the bride and her parents." Phones started buzzing. Not just one or two but dozens across the ballroom. A wave of notification sounds rippling through the crowd like dominoes falling. "What on earth?" Mom pulled out her phone, frowning at the screen. Her face went white. Victoria checked her own phone. "This can't be right." "What is it?" Dad appeared, champagne glass in hand, his face flushed with alcohol and celebration. "What's everyone looking at?" "Forbes just published their 30 under 30 list," Brad said, staring at his phone. "Technology category." Tyler Morrison's voice carried from across the room. "Holy shit. Maya Chen is number 1. The ballroom went quiet. 300 people suddenly focused on their phones, on the Forbes website, on the announcement that had just gone live. Number 1. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. In technology? Mom thrust her phone at me, her hand shaking. The screen showed the Forbes website. Forbes 30 under 30. Technology. Number 1. Maya Chin, 27. Founder and CEO Logistech Solutions. Net worth. $1.2 billion. The article continued below, but I didn't need to read it. I'd seen the draft 2 weeks ago when Forbes had fact-checked everything with my lawyers. Billion. Dad grabbed the phone, squinting at the screen. This says billion. With a B. That's impossible, Victoria said. Maya works in a warehouse. She drives a Honda. She lives in Oakland. I live in Oakland by choice, I said calmly. The warehouse is where I started Logistech. And I kept the Honda because it runs fine. Tyler Morrison pushed through the crowd, his face lit with excitement. Maya. Congratulations. When were you going to tell us? Number 1. And youngest self-made billionaire in the technology sector. Billionaire. Mom's voice cracked. Maya, what is he talking about? More guests crowded around, their phones out, comparing notes. The Forbes article was spreading through the ballroom like wildfire. A woman in a red dress, one of Brad's senior partners at Goldman, approached with her phone extended. I apologize, but I have to ask. Are you the Maya Chin who developed the smart flow algorithms? I am. I've been trying to get a meeting with your team for 6 months. We want to implement your systems across our entire global supply chain. She glanced at Victoria and Mom, her expression shifting from excitement to confusion. Wait, you're the bride's sister. I am. But earlier I heard someone say you worked in a warehouse? I did. That's where I started Logistech 5 years ago. The senior partner's eyes widened. You started Logistech in a warehouse? In Oakland. I needed to understand ground-level logistics before I could optimize them. So I worked the floor for 8 months. Loading trucks, managing inventory, tracking shipments. Then I built the software. And now you're worth over $1 billion. The senior partner laughed in disbelief. That's incredible. Victoria grabbed my arm again, pulling me away from the crowd. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? That you were building a company. That you were successful. You let us think. I let you think what you wanted to think, I said. Every time I tried to explain what I was doing, you interrupted. You assumed. You decided I was a failure and nothing I said would have changed your mind. That's not fair. Isn't it? Christmas, I tried to tell you about the first major contract Logistech secured. You cut me off to talk about your new handbag. At Dad's birthday, I mentioned that I was hiring a development team. You asked if they were other warehouse workers. Mom appeared, mascara starting to run. Maya, sweetheart, this is wonderful news. Why didn't you share this with your family? I tried. You weren't interested in listening. But $1 billion. Dad had joined the circle, his face red. You're worth $1 billion and you're wearing a $200 dress to your sister's wedding? I like this dress. But people will think. Mom stopped herself, glancing around at the guests who were still clustered nearby, watching our family drama unfold in real time. A silver-haired man in an impeccable suit approached. Excuse me. I'm Robert Hutchinson, Brad's father. I couldn't help but overhear. You're really the founder of Logistech? Yes, sir. My firm uses your software. Saved us $40 million last year in logistics costs alone. He extended his hand and I shook it. I had no idea Brad was marrying into such an innovative family. Your daughter is remarkable, Mrs. Chen. Mom's smile was strained. Yes, well, Maya's always been driven. Driven? She's revolutionary. Robert turned to me. We've been trying to arrange a meeting with your team. Our CFO wants to discuss expanding our implementation to international operations. Have your people contact my office, I said. We can set something up. Your office. Victoria's voice was hollow. You have an office. I have a building. In San Francisco. 43 employees. 43. Victoria swayed slightly and Brad steadied her. But you said you worked in Oakland. I said I live in Oakland. My company's headquarters is in San Francisco, near the Ferry Building. Brad pulled out his phone, typing quickly. Logistech Solutions. Headquarters at One Market Plaza. Jesus, Victoria, that's prime real estate. The view's nice, I said. More guests were gathering now, a crowd forming around our family. I could hear them whispering, comparing phone screens, reading the Forbes article aloud to each other. It says here you started Logistech with $50,000 in savings, someone read. Worked in a warehouse to understand the operational challenges, then spent 18 months developing the initial algorithm. First major client was Amazon. Third client, I corrected. First was a regional shipping company, second was a national retail chain. Amazon came after we'd proven the concept. Tyler Morrison laughed. After you'd proven the concept? Maya, you revolutionized supply chain management. Companies are falling over themselves to implement your systems. The photographer appeared, camera raised. Miss Chen? The younger Miss Chen? Could we get some photos? Forbes might want to use these for their feature article. Feature article? Mom's voice rose an octave. Of course, the photographer said. They always do extended coverage of the #1 spot. Especially when it's someone as young as Miss Chen. This is huge news. Victoria grabbed the photographer's arm. Wait, you want photos of Maya? For Forbes, yes. The lighting in here is perfect, and with the wedding backdrop, it's a great human interest angle. Billionaire CEO celebrates sister's wedding. Very relatable. Relatable. Victoria repeated the word like it was foreign. My phone rang. My actual phone, not the personal one, but my work cell that I'd turned to silent for the wedding. I glanced at the screen. I need to take this. Now. Mom's voice cracked. Maya, there are people here who want to meet you. It's my head of PR. The Forbes announcement just went live. I need to coordinate our response. I stepped away from the crowd answering the call. Sir, yes, the reaction is significant. Schedule the press interviews for Monday. And yes, send the prepared statement to the usual outlets. I'll be available for calls tomorrow afternoon. When I returned, the crowd had grown. It seemed like half the wedding guests had migrated to our corner of the ballroom, phones out, questions ready. Miss Chen, is it true you turned down a buyout offer from Google? Someone asked. I did. 3 months ago. How much did they offer? $2 billion. But Logistech isn't for sale. Victoria made a choking sound. You turned down $2 billion? The company's worth more than that, and I'm not finished building it. A young woman in a sleek black dress pushed forward. Maya Chen? I'm Jennifer Walsh from TechCrunch. I'm here as a guest, but I have to ask, can I schedule an interview? This is the biggest tech story of the year. Have your editor contact my PR team, I said. We're scheduling media interviews for next week. Your PR team. Victoria laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. Of course you have a PR team. Why wouldn't you have a PR team? Brad's senior partner appeared again, this time with 2 colleagues in tow. Miss Chen, I apologize for the intrusion, but we really must discuss a partnership. Goldman Sachs is very interested in exploring investment opportunities with Logistech. We're not seeking investment, I said. But I'm always open to discussing enterprise implementation of our systems. Enterprise implementation. Right. The partner pulled out a business card. Please have someone from your team reach out. This could be a very lucrative relationship for both parties. Mom was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Maya, I don't understand. When did all this happen? Over the past 5 years. While you thought I was just loading trucks. But you never said. I tried. Multiple times. You didn't listen. Dad cleared his throat. Well, in our defense, you were quite vague about your work. I told you I was developing logistics software. You called it playing with computers. We didn't realize you were starting a billion-dollar company. Would it have mattered? If I'd told you the exact value of Logistech, would you have listened? Or would you have assumed I was exaggerating? The silence that followed was answer enough. Victoria's carefully applied makeup was starting to smudge, tears threatening to spill over. This is my wedding day, Maya. My special day. And you're making it about you. I didn't do anything, I said quietly. Forbes published their list. I didn't control the timing. But you knew. You knew this was coming today and you came anyway. You invited me. I'm your sister. Some sister. You let us look like fools in front of everyone. Brad touched Victoria's shoulder. Honey, maybe we should. Should what? Victoria spun to face him. Pretend this isn't happening? Everyone here is talking about Maya. My wedding is ruined. Your wedding is fine, I said. The Forbes list is news for about 5 minutes. Then people will go back to celebrating your marriage. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. The crowd around us was growing, phones out, questions multiplying. The wedding had transformed into something else entirely. An impromptu press conference with 300 amateur journalists. Miss Chin. A man in his 50s pushed forward, gold cufflinks flashing. Harrison Webb Venture Capital. I'd love to discuss funding opportunities for your next venture. Logistech is my venture. I'm not looking for funding. But surely with your track record you're considering expansion? New products? I represent several firms that would be very interested. I'm at my sister's wedding, I said, my voice firm. This isn't the time or place. Harrison had the grace to look embarrassed. Of course. Apologies. But please take my card. For when you are ready to discuss opportunities. I accepted the card, the 10th I'd received in the last 15 minutes, and tucked it into my clutch alongside the others. Mom grabbed my arm, her grip desperate. Maya, darling, we need to talk. Privately. Mom, there's nothing to. Now. Her voice left no room for argument. She pulled me toward a quiet corner away from the crowd. Dad and Victoria followed, forming a tight circle that shut out the rest of the ballroom. Why didn't you tell us? Mom's whisper was fierce. Your own family, Maya. We had a right to know. Did you? Because every time I mentioned my work you dismissed it. Every holiday, every phone call, you made it clear that what I was doing wasn't good enough. We were trying to motivate you. No, you were trying to shame me. There's a difference. Victoria's tears were flowing freely now, mascara tracking down her cheeks. You made us look like idiots. Everyone heard what we said about you, about the warehouse work, the Honda, the cheap dress. And now they know the truth. The truth is I do work in a warehouse sometimes. I do drive a Honda. And I did buy this dress online. Nothing I said was a lie. But you let us believe. I let you believe what you wanted to believe. You made assumptions about my life, my choices, my success. I didn't correct you because honestly, I met Victoria's eyes. I wanted to see how far you'd go. How cruel you'd be to someone you thought was beneath you. Mom gasped. That's not fair. Isn't it? You introduced me to Brad's family as the disappointing daughter. You seated me behind a pillar. You told me to stand in the back of photos and fix my hair. When would it have stopped? If Forbes hadn't published their list, would you have spent the rest of your life treating me like a failure? We were concerned about you. Dad's voice was too loud, drawing attention from nearby guests. He lowered it to a harsh whisper. We paid for Stanford. We expected you to do something with that education. I did. I built a billion-dollar company. By working in a warehouse. By understanding the problem before creating the solution. That's good business. Victoria wiped her eyes, smearing her makeup further. This is unbelievable. My wedding is completely ruined. Your wedding is fine, I repeated. Look around, Victoria. People are still dancing. The band is still playing. Dinner is being served. The only thing that's changed is what people think of me. Everyone is staring. They'll stop. Give it 10 minutes and they'll be back to celebrating your marriage. But even as I said it, I could see the phones still out, the clusters of guests huddled around screens, the surreptitious glances in our direction. The Forbes announcement had fundamentally altered the evening. Jennifer Walsh from TechCrunch appeared at my elbow. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but my editor is already asking for a quote. Can you give me anything? Even just a sentence about your reaction to being named number one. I glanced at Victoria, whose face had gone from red to white to a concerning shade of purple. Not right now. Of course, but maybe later? After dinner. Jennifer, I said carefully, I'm at a family wedding. Any official statements will come through my PR team early next week. She nodded, backing away, but I could see her typing on her phone, probably tweeting the fact that she'd found me at my sister's wedding, that I'd declined to comment, that the youngest self-made billionaire in technology was celebrating family while the tech world exploded with news of her success. The orchestra started playing again, a signal that dinner was about to be served. Guests began drifting back to their tables, though many still held phones, still read articles, still whispered about the Chin family drama that had unfolded in real time. We need to take new photos, Victoria said suddenly. Family photos. With Maya in the center. Victoria. No, she's right, Mom said, her voice taking on a manic quality. We should have photos with Maya. Properly positioned. People will want to see them. People will want to see them, I repeated. Not because you're proud of me, but because I'm suddenly worth photographing. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? The photographer approached cautiously. I hate to interrupt, but if you want additional family photos, now would be the time. The lighting is perfect. Victoria grabbed my hand. Please, Maya. Just a few photos. For the family. I looked at my sister, her smudged makeup, her desperate eyes, her death grip on my hand. For all her cruelty, for all her dismissive comments and casual humiliations, she was still my sister. And this was still her wedding day. Okay, I said quietly. A few photos. We spent the next 10 minutes posing for the camera. This time I wasn't hidden in the back or half cropped out of the frame. Mom positioned me front and center, her arm around my waist, her smile bright and false. Beautiful family, the photographer said. You must be so proud. Mom's laugh was brittle. Oh, we are. So very proud. When the photos were finished, I escaped back to table 17. My salmon was cold, the vegetables congealed, but I didn't care. I just needed a moment away from the staring, the questions, the sudden attention. Tyler Morrison slid into the seat beside me. Hell of an evening. You could say that. For what it's worth, I think what you did is incredible. Starting from the ground up, really understanding the work before trying to optimize it, that's rare in tech. Thank you. And your family. He hesitated. Well, I'm sure they're just processing the news. They're processing the fact that I'm suddenly worth knowing. Tyler winced. Yeah. I heard some of what they said earlier. Before the announcement. That was rough. It's been rough for 5 years. Why didn't you tell them? Would you believe me if I said I wanted to see if they'd love me anyway? Even if I was just a warehouse worker. And I watched Mom across the ballroom, watched her laughing with Brad's parents, probably spinning some story about how she'd always known I'd be successful, how proud she'd always been. I got my answer, I said. Dinner was served, though I barely tasted it. Guests kept approaching between courses. Brad's colleagues, distant relatives, complete strangers who suddenly wanted to know about Logistech, about the Forbes announcement, about my plans for the future. I answered politely, gave out business cards for my PR team, deflected personal questions. And through it all I watched my family. Victoria trying to smile for photos while her eyes kept drifting to me with something like resentment. Mom suddenly effusive in her praise, telling anyone who would listen about my Stanford education, my brilliant mind, my innovative spirit. All the things she'd dismissed or ignored for the past 5 years. Dad calculating behind his eyes, probably already thinking about how my success could benefit him, his business, his social standing. The speeches began after dinner. Brad's best man told jokes about college adventures. Victoria's maid of honor cried through a story about their friendship. And then Dad stood, champagne glass raised, his face flushed with alcohol and emotion. I want to say a few words about my daughters, he began, his voice carrying across the ballroom. Victoria, you've always made us proud. Your business, your marriage to Brad, your success. It's everything we could have hoped for. Victoria beamed from the head table. And Maya. Dad paused, his eyes finding me in the crowd. Maya has surprised us all tonight. When Forbes announced their 30 under 30 list, when we saw our daughter, our youngest daughter, ranked #1 in technology, worth over $1 billion. Well, I'll be honest. We were stunned. Polite laughter rippled through the crowd. But I want everyone here to know, Dad continued, that we've always believed in Maya. Always known she was destined for great things. And tonight, seeing her success recognized on such a prestigious platform, we couldn't be more proud. To my brilliant, innovative, remarkable daughter, Maya Chin. The ballroom erupted in applause. 300 people raising their glasses, toasting my success, my innovation, my remarkable achievements. I didn't raise my glass. I sat at table 17 watching my father lie to 300 people, watching him rewrite 5 years of dismissal and disappointment into a narrative of support and belief. And I smiled. Because I knew the truth. They knew the truth. And thanks to Forbes, thanks to the timing of that announcement, half the guests here knew the truth too. They'd heard what Mom and Victoria said before the announcement. They'd witnessed the casual cruelty, the dismissive comments, the way my family had treated me when they thought I was just a warehouse worker with a cheap dress and a 10-year-old Honda. The evening wound down slowly. Cake was served, a 6-tier masterpiece with real gold leaf. The band played and couples danced. Victoria and Brad cut the cake for photos, smiling and laughing, but I could see the tension in my sister's shoulders, the way she kept glancing at me. Around 10 o'clock I decided I'd fulfilled my family obligations. I found Victoria near the bar, scrolling through her phone, probably reading the hundreds of Forbes articles and social media posts about Logistech. "I'm going to head out," I said. Victoria looked up, her eyes red from crying and champagne. "You're leaving? It's been a long day." "Why, He stopped, searching for words. "I'm sorry. For what I said. Before." "Are you sorry? Or are you sorry that everyone heard you say it?" Victoria flinched. "That's not fair." "Tonight wasn't about fair, Victoria. It was about truth. And the truth is you've spent 5 years treating me like a failure. Tonight didn't change that. It just changed what you think I'm worth. I was wrong. You were cruel. There's a difference." I turned to leave, but Victoria grabbed my arm. "Please. Stay. Just a little longer. People want to talk to you. People want to talk to the Forbes #1. They don't want to talk to me. And honestly, I don't want to talk to them. But enjoy your wedding, Victoria. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope Brad makes you happy." I pulled away and headed for the exit. Mom intercepted me in the lobby, slightly unsteady in her heels. "Waya, you're not leaving." "I am. But there are people, investors, business owners, they want to meet you. They can contact my office on Monday." "Waya, please." Mom's voice cracked. "I know I said some things tonight. Things I shouldn't have said. But you have to understand we didn't know. We thought we were helping." "Helping? By calling me a disappointment in front of 300 people? I never used that word." "Victoria did. And you agreed with her. You smiled and nodded while she told everyone I was the family failure." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry that I'm not actually a failure?" I didn't wait for an answer. I walked out of the Grand Meridian Ballroom, through the marble lobby into the cool San Francisco night. My Honda was parked 3 blocks away. I hadn't wanted to pay for valet. I walked slowly, my cheap heels clicking on the sidewalk, my $200 dress swishing around my knees. My phone buzzed with messages. My head of PR, my lawyers, my development team, media outlets, investors. Everyone wanted a piece of the Forbes #1. But I didn't check them. Not yet. I drove across the Bay Bridge to Oakland to my tiny apartment with the view of the water, and changed into sweats and an old Stanford t-shirt, from the 2 years I'd attended before taking that leave of absence to build a company. Tomorrow the interviews would start. The media frenzy would intensify. Logistech would be thrust into the spotlight, and with it my story. The warehouse worker who became a billionaire, the Stanford dropout who revolutionized logistics, the family disappointment who proved everyone wrong. But tonight I just sat on my balcony and watched the lights of San Francisco sparkle across the bay. I thought about Victoria, probably still at her reception, trying to salvage her special day. I thought about Mom and Dad, spinning their narrative of always believing in me, always supporting me. And I thought about table 17 tucked behind a pillar, where they'd seated the disappointing relative nobody wanted in the photos. My phone rang. "Sarah, my head of PR. The Forbes piece is exploding," she said without preamble. "Every major outlet wants an interview. Bloomberg, CNBC, TechCrunch, Wired. Everyone. And there's a human interest angle emerging about your family dynamic. Apparently, someone at the wedding tweeted about your sister's comments before the announcement." Of course they did. It's getting traction. Tech billionaire reveals sister's treatment at wedding. Do you want to respond? No. Maya, this could be good for your image. The self-made angle, the family drama overcome. I said no. What happened tonight was private. Or it should have been. Understood. What about interviews? Can I start scheduling? Yes. But only professional outlets. Tech industry focus. Nothing about my family. Got it. Also, Google CEO called. They want to discuss their buyout offer again. Still not interested. They're willing to go to $3 billion. I watched a ferry cross the bay, its lights reflected in the dark water. Tell them Logistech isn't for sale. At any price. After Sarah hung up, I sat in the quiet of my apartment. My tiny, cheap apartment that I could afford 1,000 times over but kept because it reminded me where I started, what mattered. My phone buzzed again. A text from Victoria. Everyone's talking about you. Everyone. This was supposed to be my day. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back. It still is. I'm sorry the timing was bad. Congratulations on your marriage. She didn't respond. Another text came through, this time from Dad. We need to talk about your company. I have some ideas about expansion. I deleted it without responding. And then unexpectedly a message from Brad. I'm sorry about tonight. Victoria is too, even if she can't say it yet. For what it's worth, I think what you've built is incredible. And I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner. I smiled at that. Typed back. Thanks, Brad. Take care of my sister. The San Francisco skyline glittered across the bay. All those buildings where people worked, where companies operated, where Forbes published lists that changed everything in a moment. Tomorrow I'd be the youngest self-made billionaire in technology. I'd be the Forbes #1. I'd be the success story everyone wanted to interview, invest in, learn from. But tonight I was just Maya Chen. The warehouse worker. The family disappointment. The girl in the $200 dress who chose to live in a tiny apartment and drive a 10-year-old Honda because success wasn't about the appearance. It was about the work. My phone buzzed one more time. A message from Tyler Morrison. Just wanted to say, your family might not have recognized your worth, but the rest of us do. Can't wait to see what you build next. I set my phone aside and watched the ferry lights disappear into the Oakland harbor. Tomorrow would be chaos. But tonight I sat in my cheap apartment wearing my old college t-shirt and felt more successful than I'd ever felt in my life. Because I'd built something real. Something valuable. Something that didn't need my family's approval or society's validation. And that was worth more than any Forbes ranking could ever measure.